So the other day, I was chatting with a client and she asked me for resources on how to lead other leaders. And I was scratching my head. I'm like, there's got to be resources out there. And I started looking. And basically what I found is that it was the same advice that you would give a manager managing their team. And the reality is this population, this role, this title is very nuanced. And so I'm going to be sharing 10 tips on how to lead leaders and how to be an effective leader of leaders. If you're in this role as a leader of leader or a lead of leads, you're going to see some differences, meaning that you're going to be working with people who have experience, who've been leaders before, who are well honed in on their leadership skills, or maybe they're not. They're going to have different expectations and needs than an independent contributor or an employee. So we're going to talk about the 10 tips that you can effectively manage leaders that report to you. So the first tip is to know your role. As a leader of other leaders, you need to understand where your role starts and where it stops. And a lot of this comes down to having honest conversations. Are you there to help them soundboard and problem solve, or are you expected to have the answers? And a lot of times, not having these conversations leads to a lot of assumption and frustrations because your team members are going to expect certain things from you, but you want them to solve the problems and come up with the answers on their own. So by knowing how we work best together and communicating that at the start of the relationship, or right now, if you've already had established dynamics, this will allow you to figure out where we have overlap, where we might have ambiguity, and where we need to specify what we do in certain situations. The second tip is to recognize that the people you are working with are top leaders. They are in these positions because they either raised their hand and they're doing a good job, they're great with people, they have experience and expertise. They're in these roles because they've earned it. You don't want to talk down to people in these roles. You want to see them as peers, as equals. We are here doing great work. We have respect and trust. The third tip is to macro manage, not macrame, macro manage. It's the opposite of micromanaging, where we're overseeing every minutia detail and getting into the weeds with people, and we're hovering and helicoptering. In macro management, we're looking at the big picture. We're looking at key milestones and how close they are to getting hit or not. We're looking at trends. We're looking at patterns. And with that information, we are then alerting our team members, our leaders, what we're noticing. So you are there looking as like green flag, red flag, yellow flag, here we go. But you're looking for macro trends, not minutia details. If you do minutia details, you're going to get in the weeds with drama and storytelling, or you're going to blow something up that might be in progress. So what you can do is say, I'm noticing this trend, I'm noticing this pattern. Can we have a conversation? I have concerns about the deadline getting hit because of these things that I'm noticing. It then becomes an objective conversation versus a personal attack. The fourth tip is to empower your team members to choose. Choice is the highest level of engagement in our language. When we want to do something, when we choose to do something, it is 100% coming from us. If we tell someone what they have to do, it's a lower form of engagement and it feels like they have to be forced to do it versus them self-selecting their teams themselves to get it done. And once they're empowered to do so, they then can put their hands on the steering wheel and determine what resources they need, what the deadlines are, and what can be expected as part of that process. You, as the leader of leads, are there to open the space for the discussion or to plant seeds, but you're not there to dictate and assign. You're going to have a lot of resistance and friction if you do that. The fifth tip is to highlight their strengths. If you haven't done your Strengths Finder, I highly suggest it. It's going to give you your top 5 out of 34 strengths, but you want to recognize, if you haven't done the assessment, what you notice the person's strength to be. And every time you're talking to them, look for those opportunities to bring their strengths out. What do you notice? If they're a great communicator, tie that in. I see your strength as being amazing in being able to create shared understanding with your team. I wonder if we could use that in this situation, or how do you see this playing out if we were able to tap into your strength? When we're able to build on that, that's the line that we're creating for our future success. But if all we're doing is pointing out what they're doing wrong, their deficiencies, their gaps, their weaknesses, they're not going to be empowered. They're not going to highlight that strength. So we have to plant those seeds as the lead of leaders to help highlight what they might be missing that's right under their nose. You see, when we do things all the time, we take them for granted because they seem easy, but that's usually our superpower. And as a leader of leaders, your job is to point that out to them, to connect those dots, of saying, hey, I'm seeing this, use it. The sixth tip is to get curious and get clarification. You see, in the corporate world, we use a lot of ambiguous speak. Circle back, lean in, lean back, whatever it is. There's a lot of jargon out there. And so what I want you to do is to get curious and get specific, and then get clarification. So if someone says to you, we're going to make something a priority, say, great, I'm so happy that you and the team are going to make this a priority. I'm curious when you can expect this to get done. So in my clarification, I'm verifying and validating what they're saying, and also asking for a specific detail that will give me more information to help hold them accountable and help lead them forward, and maybe push back if it's not a realistic expectation on delivery. The seventh tip is to have shared accountability. It means that I have permission to say something, to give you some pushback, or provide some flag system when things aren't going as planned. And you have had that conversation with me of, hey, so what do you need to be accountable? How do you want me to support you? What do you need from me when I notice that things are going off the rails or going off scope? And we also have shared accountability. So if I'm not doing what I need to do, that person has permission to say, hey, Lauren, we needed this sign off from you last week and it's still not done. Can you get on that? So I'm giving them permission without any retaliation or pushback to stay accountable with me. They're going to hold me accountable as much as I'm holding them accountable. The eighth tip is to model the behavior you want to see. We have a culture where we respect one another and we speak respectfully about one another. And then you're gossiping or you're crap talking somebody else. The word gets back. And as soon as you have that contradictory behavior based on your words, people stop trusting you. So if you want to see a collaborative and supportive and innovative team, look at the way that you're showing up and look at the behaviors that you might be exhibiting that's contradicting that, and clean it up immediately. The ninth tip is about giving fast and frequent feedback. This means being objective and noticing things, back to those patterns. What are you seeing emerge? Now, fast isn't about being reactive. We want to be responsive. So if you notice that you have an emotional charge, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling slighted in the least, you need to take that time out and separate the fact from the story and only deliver the facts. So feedback is about being objective, not storytelling. People can work with specifics and facts. They get all messed up and tangled up in the storyline. And before you know it, you are hanging upside down from Jack's beanstalk. Okay. So if you're going to get feedback, be objective, make it fast, meaning don't let it fester. Don't let it build so that you're collecting more evidence of why this person is doing a bad job. If you want to support people in doing better work, you need to be quicker in the time that it takes to deliver the message. And the 10th tip is to share knowledge, in parentheses, when it's requested. Yes, you have done a ton of work, you have a ton of experience to be leading other leaders, but it's not all about you. You have one perspective and one experience. And so if it's only about you delivering it and people looking for the answers from you, they're not actually growing and building their own perspective. So if you're going to share, make sure that people want it. So ask for permission. So, hey, I had this experience in a past job. Let me know if you wanted me to share it with you because I think it might be helpful. That yes or no, that'd be great, allows trust to be built in that moment, and also allows the person to say, no, you know what? I think I'm going to figure this out on my own, or I'm going to go talk to this other person. Give them the opportunity to say yes or no. It is not a slight against you if they say they don't want to hear it. It may just be constraints on time. So those are the 10 tips on how you can lead leaders better. If you have other suggestions, feel free to post it in the comments below and check out our other videos coming up.